truth untold. We restored democracy. We initiated due process. We created the EFCC and ICPC. We brought Nigeria out of debt by achieving $18 billion worth of relief and $30 billion overall reduction. We revived the rail system. We upgraded agriculture. We brought in the mobile phone and digitalized Nigeria. Under the PDP, the Nigerian economy was the strongest in Africa. Though Nigerians made their choice, today we all know better. Nigerians, do not despair. Hope is in the horizon. We are putting in the work and refreshing our drive to rescue and rebuild Nigeria. Together, let's make it happen. PDP. Power to the people.
Thank you so much for remaining with us. And like we told you, we have the spokesman, one of the spokespersons of the PDP presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, his running mate, Ifeanyi Okowa. I have Eddie Ayegu with us here in the studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayegu, for coming on the show.
Ajay, thanks for having me. Good evening, viewer.
It's been quite a long time. We've not had you on this program.
Yeah, because we've been busy in the field trying to crisscross the length and breadth of our country in line with the name of our party.
Very good. That's why
People's Democratic Party, so interfacing with the constituents who indeed we refer as the sovereign. The power belongs to them, so we need to go to them to be able to have the power.
Okay. Now let's take it to the field. It's been quite not easy, and we have seen different statements coming from your own campaign council trying to change the narrative, especially
change it in what direction?
Change the narrative of what is being seen in the social media at times between the three strong candidates, the Labour Party, the APC, and the PDP candidates. And each time I open my social media, I get to see discordant tunes. This one will say your candidate is this and that. So tell us how and what will make Nigerians vote for your candidate, Atiku Abubakar.
Well, there are many reasons why I think Nigerians would prefer Atiku Abubakar. But before that, Ijoma, you raised the issue of candidates talking about their opponents. It is true that there are a lot of issues with respect to this campaign that affect Nigerians. But in the midst of those issues, you cannot also run away from the personality of those who are seeking to govern Nigerians. So it's not all about what you are going to do to the economy. It's not all about what you are going to do to infrastructure. It's not all about how you are going to unite Nigerians. It is also about the ability of these persons to carry on with whatever promises they have put down in their policy document. And then, of course, we also look at their past, their present, and possibly determine what their future will look like. And so when you hear us talk about certain candidates, we are saying so because Nigerians need to be weary of who they are vis-a-vis the promises they have made. I give you an instance. The other day, the APC was in Minna. And at the end of the day, they had a very large turnout of crowd. They were able to mobilize a large crowd. And all of a sudden, they made it look as if the candidate is suffering from what we call demophobia. That is demophobic, afraid of the crowd. Up to today, I don't even still know whether he's still running from that crowd. Because since that day, I'm not too sure, Ijoma, even as a journalist, you know better, whether you have seen the candidate of the APC. But the candidate of the PDP is very much busy crisscrossing the length and breadth of this country. So when we point out those issues, it's for the purpose of getting Nigerians to be guided. Now, to your question as to what will make Nigerians prefer Atiku Abubakar. Atiku Abubakar represents a whole lot of positives for this country. There are individuals who are making the mistake of not understanding that for you to be a president, there are a lot of boxes that you need to tick. You need to be able to tick just like somebody who is seeking for a particular job, or when you write exam. You score 60%, they say, yes, you have gotten a B. You get to 50, they say it's a credit. What it means is that you may not be able to score 100%, but there are certain boxes that when they tick you in the positive direction. And so if you are not able to analyze all this, you may not understand who indeed is that candidate that is capable. Now, when you look at all the boxes, you will discover that Atiku is that candidate that is far above other candidates. And what are these boxes? You need to be able to look at the capability of this person who wants to be president to govern, whether in terms of his mental alertness or understanding of the issues, how he's going to deal with the issues of security and what he has put on the ground, how he's going to be able to help us to recover from the economy downturn that we are suffering at the moment, how he will be able to bring back the jobs, how he will ensure that our infrastructure that are largely in a very comatose situation at the moment are all revitalized, and a host of other issues, including, of course, and very importantly, the need to unite the different segments of our society. And so not until you're able to begin to tick these boxes, you may just run with one and say, no, this man has been able to save money. And then because of that, you begin to run in the wrong direction. You need to be able to look at all the factors that could determine somebody who will be able to become a much more effective and efficient leader of this great country of ours for you to make the right decision. And which is why we believe that Atiku is that man that fits into these many shoes that we need to be able to put on to whoever that becomes our president for the purpose of having a better country.
Mr. Idu, there are those who also believe that, one, the age will determine who will run this country because they've seen the past. And Atiku has been a part of the PDP of yesterday. He was the vice president. A past
that we are very proud of.
He was the vice president to the former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo. And you also talked about mental alertness.
Yes.
The strength of the youth gives that as when somebody is young in age, the mental alertness will be there. You think your candidate has all it takes to say, yes, he's very alert mentally. Because I know where you're going to. You're trying to look at other candidates who you feel have not been able to do well.
I don't want us to talk about Emiloko. Let us talk. Let's talk about our candidate. Yes. We don't want to go there. Nigerians already know.
I didn't mention, but you're looking at that. But there are people who are still saying that your candidate, age-wise, shouldn't be in the race.
Have you had cause to listen to Atiku Abubakar in the course of the many town halls and in the course of our campaigns? Has he at any time given you the impression that he's somebody who is suffering from selective amnesia and could not remember any of the things that he needed to speak to? Now, there is no law, or not even law, there is no, what do you call it now, logic anywhere that says that because you are 3 years, because you are 15 years, it means that you must naturally be much more alert than somebody who is 60 years. It doesn't always happen that way. I agree that sometimes you need to be very, very youthful, but you could also be very youthful at heart and youthful mentally in the case of Atiku. Now, if you begin to look at the numbers, it might not always fit in. Don't forget, the president of the United States of America is not even 73 years old. I'm talking about Joe Biden. You also know Donald Trump. Now, let's come back to the issue of why Atiku stands tall above others. Look at the many issues he has put on the table because he understands the challenges. Right from the time that he prepared himself to run for this office, he had put up what you call a policy document titled My Covenant with Nigerians. At that time, none of the political parties, none of the candidates have been able to think of what they want to do with Nigeria. They were more like involved in what the Igbo man called Iwelinka Elienka, so a game of poker. So maybe when you put this one on top of this one, you put another one for you to be able to determine which one you get, in form of gambling. While Atiku was very much exact. Not up to just about 2-3 weeks ago, some of them didn't have any policy document as to what they want to do with this country. They were as confused as individuals who were not even thinking of whether to govern or not. So a man who had been able to identify the challenges because he carried out what doctors call diagnosis, for you to determine whether you can possibly treat a patient. And in this case, a patient that is in the ICU unit, that's intensive care unit, needs a proper diagnosis from a physician who ranks as a consultant. Nigeria is in that ICU unit where you need a medical personnel that is more or less a consultant and have been able to understand the nuances of administering the right dosage of medication for the purpose of reviving that particular patient. Nigeria, you agree with me, Joma, is in that ICU unit. You don't need to look for a doctor who just left and finished his house job and may not know the nuances of this very, very cancerous ailment that is disturbing this patient. Nigeria today is suffering from a problem of unity. Nigeria is suffering from insecurity. Our economy is in the worst of shape. Our naira is bouncing like a football, and many other challenges. It is not something that you just wake up and pick anybody and say, please come and treat. Otherwise, you will end up, instead of reviving that sick patient, you will end up leading to what you may call early grave of that patient. And that is what we are asking Nigerians not to do to our country. That consultant that is going to be able to recover our country from the precipice is Atiku Abubakar, because he's more or less a consultant in this business of administration, in this business of understanding what is wrong with our country, and he has been able to carry out a proper diagnosis of the many ailments that are disturbing our country today, and is in a position to administer the right medication.
Mr. Ayedu, you've gone out with your candidates and you've gone for campaigns across some states in Nigeria.
We're in Kafanchan today.
And that's why I want to ask
and by
you.
tomorrow, we'll be going to Katsina.
What are your feelers? Do you think it is favorable for
the
you?
The support is even much more than we can imagine.
You can say that because it's still your party and you're a spokesman of that
the beautiful thing is that your medium, a medium I also respect so well, has been following the campaign trail. Apart from the numbers, you could see the enthusiasm that shows that most of those persons that turn out in our campaigns are organic. They are not just assembled individuals. Because when you assemble individuals, number one, you don't see that vibes. They decide that maybe when you even say PDP, they may keep quiet. But when they come on their own, Atiku will say, if you know you will vote for me, raise up your hand. And you see everybody in the congregation raise their hands. You see the man as he's walking up to the podium. You see the excitement that usually greets his entry into any of the arena. That tells you that this particular congregation is organic in nature. Don't forget that PDP has a whole lot of down ballot, which many other political parties that are contesting don't have. The down ballot have effect. If I am contesting an election in my community, even if the people around my community may not know Atiku and they know me and they know we're of the same party, the tendency that the love they have for me will also be transferred to Atiku is there. Not to talk of the fact that Atiku himself is well loved across the length and breadth of this country. He is the only candidate in this election that has got very, very well-known international connections, thanks to his former position as vice president of this country, where, and I must appreciate Olusegun Obasanjo, where he gave me that opportunity to be known and to be exposed to the international community. In terms of marriage, across the geopolitical divide, including the different ethnic groups, Atiku ranks very far above others. In terms of discovering other persons that can perform in their different fields for the purpose of recovering, these are a patient that is very, very ill. Atiku also ranks very, very high. In terms of being able to ensure that a number of the different segments of our society are brought to bear in dealing with the many challenges that confront us, because you know, in the body, Ijoman, there are different kinds of ailments. You could have running stomach. You could have, what's it called now, headache. You could have several other pains. You know what? The field of medicine has made it easy that you now have different doctors that deal with these different, that have professionalizes in these different ailments for the purpose of becoming an expert in each of these field of medicine. Atiku is that man who has got the ability to assemble those different experts in these different fields of medicine for the purpose of administering the right medication and for the purpose of recovering that patient that is critically ill.
Mr.
In this case, Nigeria, which is in a very, very intense, which is in the intensive care unit.
Mr. Ayedu, let's look at the reality that is before us now. If you go to the north, you observe that most of the governors in the north, they are APC members. The state are controlled by the
when Muhammadu Buhari won in 2015, were most of the governors APC members?
Hold on. Now, you're going into an election. You just made that's an example that you have given here. But if you take a look at the pattern of voting and what is going on in
which part of the country?
In almost everywhere. You talk about the north, they have their pattern of voting. If you talk about the south, they also have their pattern of voting. And but this time around, you have...
Not true. That's not
yes,
true.
We have observed results coming from those areas. We have observed results as a journalist that I am in the field and covering elections for over 2 decades now. I have observed results coming from states and the regions. And you will notice that these are patterns of voting. Now, what I want to ask you is, yes, when you talk about results, when it comes from the north, you see junk. It comes like that to overtake every other thing that is, especially from the KKKs. But there are very strong 5 or 6 candidates in the ballots now.
Ijoma, first of all, I need to remind you of the fact that even in our country, there are also what we call swing states. Swing states are those states that may either move this way or move that way. For instance, once upon a time, Edo could be classified as swing state, in which case it is either PDP today and possibly APC tomorrow. But today, Edo is in the kitty of the PDP. Ondo State, once upon a time, was in the PDP, so you can be regarded as a swing state. Ekiti State, a swing state. Kogi State, a swing state. Swing states are those states in the entire north. There are only 2 states that are not largely classified as swing states. I know about 3 of them, and that is Taraba, Yobe, and Borno. These states have maintained consistency in terms of the party that is governing them. In the case of Taraba, it has always been PDP. In the case of Borno and Yobe, it was initially APP, later AMPP, and then, of course, at this moment, APC.
So it has never been PDP.
So you can't call it a swing state.
Yes.
But for the many other states that you see in the north, they have either at one time, all of them have been governed by PDP. All the states. In this whole country, the only states that have not been governed by PDP, there are only 3. And that is Yobe, Borno, and Lagos. Every other state in this country have been governed by PDP. What it tells you is that in every state that you have in this federation, PDP has a larger stronghold in any of these other 33 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Because the PDP is the only one that have won election in those 33 states. And of course, I mentioned 3 of these other states. In the case of Lagos, PDP at the presidential election have won Lagos. The only thing that has not happened is the issue of the governorship election. Even as we speak, the members of the National Assembly that are of PDP extraction in Lagos are also large and reasonable.
But are you aware that some of your members have moved? That are in this state? Some of your members have moved to other parties too.
If you talk about movement, we have received more.
But don't you think the OB factor, may
we have
affect
received
you?
more. Now that you mention obedience, let's go to the cities that ordinarily could be seen as a home. Mention one big person that have moved. They are rather coming back. So when you talk about this movement, you need to be able to look at the mathematics of the movement. We are not only dependent on the movement, we are dependent on the fact that the majority of individuals, including those in the APC, are very much tired of what is happening in their party. Needn't I remind you of the return of a very big fish in the category of in the caliber of Dogara coming back to the food? Of course, is welcome home. And as I'm telling you, there are a number of persons that we don't want to mention that will also return home because they know where is home. You mentioned a while ago about the PDP, and I tell you that we are very proud of our contributions to the development of Nigeria, irrespective of what individuals will say, either because they don't understand the trajectory of our growth, and at the time we started, you know that you have to first of all crawl, walk, before you begin to run.
Yeah.
We midwife this democracy, and we're at that level where we were just crawling, learning the ropes. So some of the major challenges you saw then were because we were just taking off. But even in the midst of taking off, we took off very, very confidently to the extent that we brought about banking consolidation. Thanks to the discovery of Atiku, who brought in Chukwuma Soludo, we were able to set up a whole lot of infrastructure and structures, such as the Sovereign Wealth Fund, thanks to the person of Konjo Iweala. And of course, remember, Atiku also has a hand in her discovery. And so for us in the PDP, there are a lot of reforms that we midwifed for the purpose of having a country that works and works for the rest of us.
Thank you so much.
And as we are returning, Atiku Abubakar is going to surpass those records
Thank you so much.
He has helped Obasanjo administration to bring to bear to the development of our country.
Thank you so much, Eyedu.
Thanks, Ijoma, for having me.
Thank you. Eyedu is one of the spokespersons of the Atiku Okowa Campaign Council. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. But
Nice to be here.
Let me take one or two before we go. Dr. Mao Lebara is tweeting. He said, the theoretical in our polity has become most unseating. Democracy is meaningless if there is no opposition, and we can't kill opposition in this country. We need a level playing ground for all political parties. Let the kite perch, and the ego too. We don't want violence. And finally, Emperor Obaje is saying, I wish to urge all political leaders in Nigeria to remember 1966 and think a better way forward so that we don't have a recurrent decimal. Otherwise, we will regret. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We can't take all these messages coming. Follow me at EJ Osami.